Good morning. Christology, another word of prolegomena, but we're getting closer to diving in. Here we go. Christology is interconnected to other theological categories. How is that so? Let me give you a few thoughts here. Remember, we said Christ is at the center, right? And the Bible is where we ground our understanding of Christology, and hermeneutics form it, so we got to get that square. But what's the interrelationship? We have all these different realms of theology. How do they intersect with Jesus? Think about Trinitarianism for a second. Trinitarianism is the doctrine of the study of the Trinity as a whole. And of course, Jesus is God the Son, one of the three persons of the Trinity. So Trinitarianism, as it intersects with Christology, answers questions for us like, what is Jesus' relationship with the Father? What is Jesus' relationship to the Spirit? Bibliology, we already talked about this as that grounding point, but there's a lot of questions that emerge. Like, for example, when we read the Bible, should we take the letters of Jesus and make like a red letter canon within the canon? That is, should we take Jesus' words and say that's the real Scripture, and the stuff Paul writes, James writes, John writes, the stuff we read in the Old Testament, since Jesus is the center, do those not really count equal as far as Scripture goes? Well, the answer to that is of course not. But understanding that and explaining that, that's an intersection point of Christology and Bibliology. What does Jesus teach us about being a true human? This is a great question. How does Christology interact with what's called anthropology, the study of humans? How does Jesus relate to Satan? You see it happen. You see it happen in Luke. You see it happen in the Gospels. You see the temptations. You see the warfare, and Jesus at the center of the warfare. How does Jesus relate to the doctrine of sin? Hamartiology, it's called. The doctrine of sin. That's a good question. It's a set of questions. Jesus comes as the second Adam, right? Romans chapter 5. You could read that today. You'd see that Jesus is the one who reverses the curse. And yet, Jesus was without sin. So how does Jesus relate to the church? He is the cornerstone of the church. This is how he relates to the doctrine of ecclesiology. We read in Ephesians about this. We read and get this from the epistles, that he is the cornerstone. He's the foundation that the church is built upon. How does Jesus relate to eschatology, the doctrines of the last things? Even now, like, what does it look like, and what should we anticipate? How is Jesus' kingship functioning even now? Think about the statement theologically for a moment, and we'll apply it this way this morning to you. Jesus is Lord. That's an eschatological statement. Jesus is Lord. What does it mean when we say that? Scripture says that in a number of texts. What's it mean? It means that he's the boss, and it means that he's God. It means that he has sovereign right and rule and reigns, and it means that he is full deity, and we fall in subjection under him. So Jesus relates to all areas of theology, and us understanding how he relates to all other areas of theology become just like, the center of a wheel with spokes going out. The center brings it all together. See, Christology sits at the center, brings it all together so we can understand how it all functions in the bigger structure of God's revelation. That's why we got to know Christology, and why we're going to study it and talk about it together. Take care.